a new wide receiver yesterday instead of drafting a number 23 overall. What does it mean for the future of the Cardinals? What should we look forward to for rounds 2 and 3 tonight? Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals on this live Friday edition. Here we go.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. If this is your first time checking us out, if it's your 100th, thank you very much to everybody who makes Locked On Cardinals a part of their lives. I kind of went a little nuts on Twitter last night. And I'd like to acknowledge that. I'd like to explain why, I was vehemently pushing back on the trade when it came out for Hollywood Brown. For those that didn't see last night, the Cardinals traded the 23 overall pick for Marquise Hollywood Brown and the 100th pick to the Ravens. Hollywood Brown was Kyler Murray's favorite wide receiver in college at Oklahoma. Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown are best friends. And Kyler Murray, according to reports, was kept out of these trade negotiations. And he found out pretty much right when we all did that his favorite college wide receiver was going to become an Arizona Cardinal. I pushed back on it, not because the trade was a bad move. That's not why I pushed back on it. I pushed back on the Cardinals trading for Hollywood Brown by giving up the 23rd overall pick because I thought that there were several, and I still do think there are several positions of need that are more important than the wide receiver position. You could say, sure, well, the wide receiver position, look what happened when DeAndre Hopkins went out last year. Absolutely. Understood. If you predicated every move on somebody potentially getting injured, I mean, you'd be unable to build out a roster because you'd be so nervous and you'd have enough depth at every position. The Cardinals need help in interior of the defensive line. They need help at pass rush. They need help at corner. And not just help. And drafting trading for a wide receiver, although it appeases Kyler Murray, which is really what Steve Keim needs to do at this point because they haven't extended him yet. I understand it from that sense. What I don't understand is why you had to give up a 23 overall pick to get him. I feel like you could have gotten him for a 2 and a player. You had to give him the 23rd overall pick. You did get a 3rd round pick, so they have 2 tonight, but they have a 2nd and then two 3s tonight. But I feel like it was the wrong move just because there were more important holes that needed to be filled. It wasn't a bad move. I think it was the wrong move for what they gave up for him. That's the distinction. And I got eviscerated on Twitter last night, and rightfully so. I bring it upon myself. But it's not me being negative just to be negative. It's me questioning the move because Hollywood Brown's not going to protect Kyler Murray. Hollywood Brown's not going to defend opposing wide receivers. Hollywood Brown is not going to stop the run. And those are the biggest needs the Cardinals have right now, in my humblest of opinions. Is it going to be fun? Sure. Is he 106 feet? Absolutely. So the correlative between 1,000 yards receiving and 5 or 6 touchdowns that he had last year in Baltimore, you could take that one of two ways. One, well, it's Lamar Jackson. We're getting Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, has better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson. They've got the history. Over 1,300 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns in 2018 when they were in college together. Great. That's 4 years ago. Okay. And it's in college. And the other way you can look at it is, well, he had 1,000 receiving yards. Yeah, it's Lamar Jackson, but his target share was monstrous. Hollywood Brown. Who the hell else are you going to throw the ball to besides Mark Andrews? So is it going to be fun? Of course. Is it going to be exciting to watch? 100%. And also, now the Cardinals have multiple holes to fill. They have 3 picks today, a second rounder and 2/3. But you could have filled that hole with somebody who's going to be on a rookie scale contract for 5 years potentially. Instead, you trade for Hollywood Brown. They picked up his 5th-year option. So he's getting paid $2 million this year. He's going to get paid much more than that in the 5th year. But from everything that we've seen up until this point, what makes you think that if Hollywood Brown balls out this year, that he's not going to just say, you know what, I want an extension now? And we know how well the Cardinals do with that. It's going to be a nice problem to have if he has, 1,300 or 1,400 receiving yards this year and 10 touchdowns. It's going to be a nice problem to have, but you're going to have to pay a guy after this year. Let's be honest. He's not going to play on the 5th-year option. Look at what's happened with everybody. All of the top receivers. A.J. Brown got traded last night. Like, are you kidding me? We're in a different world of player empowerment and player movement. So I saw it as, well, you could draft Keir Elam at 23, which is where he went, and you get potentially a CB1 in control on a rookie scale contract for 4 or 5 years. Now, if you trade for Hollywood Brown, which is what they did, you have potentially just 1 year on a rookie scale contract. If he has a big year this year, they're going to have to pay him next year anyways. So it takes away the luxury of drafting a star player at 23 overall. Now, on the other side, once again, there's many different sides to this. Like, would you take a proven entity over a draft player? I've said that a lot. Sure, I wouldn't take Hollywood Brown for a first-round pick. Just from what's been seen so far, I wouldn't do it. I'm happy to eat my words. I would love to eat my words. And I hope that this is like, oh, he was in Baltimore. It was a run-first offense, and Hollywood Brown his potential wasn't maximized. I hope he's the next Antonio Brown, who's his uncle, I believe. Or cousin. I can't remember. I hope he's another version of Steve Smith. I hope that's the case. There's been few and far between. The one thing we do know is, on this roster right now, you've got a perfect mix of big and slow and small and fast. AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, Hollywood Brown. If Cliff Kingsbury has more weapons now than 80% of the rest of the NFL on offense, let's see what he can do with it. Alex Nancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks to everybody who's watching now, who's followed throughout the draft, who's ripping me on Twitter. I haven't lost more Twitter followers in one day than I did last night. I would have taken an offensive lineman. I would have taken a corner. I know it's a fun story. I know the Cardinals' offense got better, but there's so many more holes that need to be filled for the Cardinals to win. They can put up 28 points. If they give up 30, they're not going to have a winning record next year. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you to everybody who makes Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Coming up next, I'm going to dive deeper into this. What does this mean now? What should the game plan be for the Cardinals? And I'll take some questions in the third segment because I'm doing this live. I really don't do these live very often. I'm doing it now because it's going to be a weird couple of days. It's going to be a weird-ass couple of days. I'm going to dive more into this next. Locked On Cardinals first. Shady Rays. Okay. It's an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. It means polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. It includes loss and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose it, no matter what happened. So give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners, though. Head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. I'm exhausted. Second segment, Locked On Cardinals. I mean, yesterday was a whirlwind. Like, I got, and this is fine. I mean, things get lost in translation all the time. And Twitter is a joke anyways. It's just, it's a free-for-all. Elon Musk maybe can save us. Okay. Let me put into succinct verbiage about what I think about the trade last night. Okay. Do I think Hollywood Brown do I think he'll be a very important asset to this organization? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to elevate Kyler Murray's ability to throw the ball down the field, to put more points on the board, to move the chains and win games? Sure, in theory, absolutely. They've got the history. They've got the rapport. He had that with Christian Kirk also. We thought not to this degree. Do I think the Cardinals should have drafted somebody at 23 overall and not given up 23 for Hollywood Brown? Yes. Both can be true. The Cardinals' interior offensive line is terrible. It's terrible. Rodney Hudson covers it. He covers up half of the gaps on either side of him because he's an all-pro. But the interior of the offensive line is terrible. And you know what opposing defenders are going to do? They're going to take their Aaron Donalds and put them inside. They don't have to go up against DJ Humphries and Kelvin Beachum. I mean, Justin Pugh and Josh Jones, whoever it's going to be in the interior, the right side, Will Hernandez. I don't see it right now. I would have drafted an offensive lineman at 23. I would have. Even though my prince, I'll quote Social Tremendous, formerly of Locked On Rams, he calls everybody his prince. Zion Johnson was gone. So at least that's a win that the Cardinals traded for Hollywood Brown and Zion Johnson was taken already. So, that would have been cataclysmic for me if the Cardinals could have drafted Zion Johnson, but they traded for Hollywood Brown. The Cardinals corners are lacking in talent. I mean, there is no pass rush right now, unless they want to move Isaiah Simmons outside and make him a pass rusher and have him go the Hassan Reddick route and move him out early before it's too late. Cool. Like, if that's the case, if it comes out in camp that that's what they're going to do, sure. I understand not addressing the edge rusher position during free agency or through the draft in the first round up until this point. I would completely understand that. There are glaring holes on this roster. And, I got a lot of responses like, hey, they have 3 picks tonight. Cool. You know that the best players are usually taken to the top of the draft and then it's incrementally goes lower and lower? Because that's where we are now. Second round, I'm going to talk in just a minute about who I think, if the Cardinals can draft this player in the second round, I will be the antithesis on Twitter of what I was last night. There's a couple players that the Cardinals can bolster this roster with. I don't know if Steve Keim's done. The draft was completely inebriated pretty much right away. It was like there were so many trades, so many things happened. That means that it's just going to get weirder. It's just going to get weirder. So the Cardinals now have capital. And now you can look into 2023. If the Cardinals want to get weird and they want to trade up towards the top of the second round, you can give away pick 100 to move up. You're able to do that. And that is no harm, no foul. Samesies, same amount of picks as you had going into the draft before trading for Hollywood Brown and picking up that late third. David Ojabo is the guy. Now, he popped his Achilles. That sounds, I hate when people say he popped his Achilles. That's usually the sound that it makes when Achilles tears. Tore his Achilles. Okay. He's probably going to be out for a large chunk of this year. Cam Akers came back same year. Okay. If they can move up and draft David Ojabo, who is he could be a perennial Pro Bowler coming out of Michigan. He is a first-round top 15 talent when healthy. I'm surprised he's still on the board for a team later in the first round who could stash away a guy. He would immediately make an impact on this roster, and he could be a standout Cardinal for the next 10 years. So if David Ojabo is there at 45, and you can move up 15 picks and give up pick 100 plus 55 to move up and draft David Ojabo, sign me up. Sign me up. It's intent. It's like, you know what? Sure, you could draft 3 players and fill a hole on 3 different positions, or you can go up and get a perennially just transcendent talent with a pick that you just acquired from trading for Hollywood Brown. Now, if they were to do that, if Steve Keim were to use 100 or even their earlier 3rd round pick and package it with 55 and move up and get somebody, I will completely reverse course on the Hollywood Brown trade, because that means they acknowledged a need, they acknowledged a target of the player that they wanted, and they went up and got him. And that is a lot better to me than sitting with your hands under your keister like, I hope the player we want falls. Them saying that to themselves. David Ojabo for me is the guy. And I know that there are some corners that are still available. I feel like, and we talked about this last year a lot, as you know, when they signed J.J. Watt and, you know, Marcus Golden was around and Chandler Jones was still around, obviously, that a good pass rush makes a lesser than cornerback room palatable because they don't have to cover for as long. So I'm definitely building from the trenches out instead of drafting a corner, because even the best corners can only cover for 3, 4, 5 seconds. So, like, if they were to do that, I would be over the absolute damn moon. There's a couple other positions that need that need some bolstering. I'll talk about both of those next. Locked On Cardinals. We wrap up this Friday edition live on YouTube and Twitter. Built Bar. So there's only a couple things you need to know really about Built Bar. Okay. First of all, they're the best tasting protein bar out there. There were blind taste tests with candy bars and Built Bars, and Built Bars would win for flavor. There's like 30 grams of sugar in candy bars. There's 4 grams of sugar in Built Bars. 17 grams of protein in Built Bars. Is there protein? Is there such thing as negative protein in candy bars? High fiber, low calorie, high protein. They're all covered in chocolate. I mean, like, these things are no joke. We get sent them. I buy them. We get sent like new flavors. I cherish those times. I do. They don't taste like, you know, you're eating bark off a tree or the side of a wall or a chalkboard. These things are flipping incredible. Go to built.com. Okay. Let me just rattle off some of these flavors. Banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate. Orange is my favorite. It is. It's seasonal. It's my favorite. They've got these things called puffs that are protein-infused marshmallow. Again, covered in chocolate. 17 grams of protein. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay. Remember, we did it yesterday. We're doing it today. Live. We are live on the Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Okay. It was absolute insanity. Our boys are down at our hub in Dallas. Pick by pick analysis. I was not on the broadcast last night because the Cardinals didn't have a pick. I'm assuming I will be after the Cardinals pick at 55, or if they move up. You can tune into the remainder of the draft the next 2 days. Starting, I think, half an hour before the draft starts today, Locked On NFL, the Locked On NFL channel on YouTube and on the Odyssey app. There's a couple positions that the Cardinals need to address. And they can do it in the second round. I said last segment, David Ojabo is the guy. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If this is your second time listening, welcome. If you listen 3 or 4 times a week, welcome. Thank you. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, and that's just the truth of the matter. David Ojabo is the apple of my eye at this point. If the Cardinals can package 55 and one of their third round picks to move up, I know that he's got the Achilles injury. I know that he's not going to be ready for the beginning of this season. I also know that when healthy, he could be an absolute mauler. And you know what the Cardinals need? Absolute maulers. The Cardinals need a Buda Baker in a pass rusher body. And David Ojabo would be that guy. And I feel like checking boxes at this point is imperative as we get closer and closer to camp, because I'll tell you what, it's 29th of April now. It's going to be June 1st before you know it. And the Cardinals still have several holes that need to be filled. And I think David Ojabo would be a home run. And you're going to have to use extra draft capital. You may even have to give up a second round pick next year, depending on how high you want to jump. If it's for a guy like that, I would do it in a heartbeat. You do it in a heartbeat. Now, if it's not David Ojabo and they don't move up, there's a couple names. Like if Breece Hall is there at 55, Steve Keim is obviously looking offense. And I did my last mock draft I did was in Steve Keim's mind. And I guess you could say at this point, I've hit a home run because I had them taking Jahan Dotson at 23. So I had them taking a wide receiver because Steve Keim is Mr. Overcorrection. Wilkes to Kingsbury, defense 20 and 21, offense in 2022, wide receiver for Kyler Murray. If he wants to go full overcorrection, Breece Hall would fit that mold. I don't think Breece Hall is going to fall to 55. I think he's going to be one of the first 4 or 5 picks taken. And there's going to, Kenneth Walker's going to be there, another great third down back from Michigan State. But what I would do if David Ojabo is gone, Nick Bonitto is a name that's around there. Drake Jackson has been jumping up potential, draft boards. There were rumblings that he was going to potentially go in the first round. Like, if David Ojabo is gone and Breece Hall is there, I would not be shocked if Steve Keim takes him. I still think it needs to be a corner or an edge rusher. But at this point, interior offensive line, interior defensive line, pass rusher, corner. That's 4. That's 4 major positions that need to be filled. Majorly impactful positions that may not be the sexiest to fill needs to be filled. Because remember, say it with me, if the Cardinals can't protect Kyler Murray, none of this is going to work. It doesn't matter how fast Hollywood Brown is if Kyler Murray's running for his life. It doesn't matter. And that's what needs to be remembered. The Cardinals need to draft an offensive lineman at some point in the second or third round. You can make a case, offensive lineman at 55. You can make a case, cornerback. You can make a case, edge rusher. You can make a case, interior defensive lineman. You can make a case drafting a corner in the second and third round. Like, you can make a case for anything that's not wide receiver. You can make a case for. So if they go O-line, corner, pass rusher, cool. If they go pass rusher, corner, cool. Like, this defense needs to get better now. The offensive line needs to get better now. Like, I don't... Ben, I'll get to in a second. That's a really good question. This team needs to trust Steve Keim to draft impact makers. He needs to go 3 for 3. Or 2 for 2 if they were going to package one of the third rounders in the second round and move up. He needs to go home run. There's no safety net at this point, or very little safety net with the names in free agency that are still available. This is where we sit. This is the dinner table we're sitting at right now, because they didn't do, they didn't do their due diligence earlier on in the draft when it was too early. And it's fine. Steve Keim just has to execute. He still hasn't made a draft pick. So right now, let me, before I get to these questions here, right now, a home run for me is 3. So say they draft the next 3, say they use all their draft picks and don't trade up. It's got to be a combination of corner, offensive lineman, edge rusher, interior defensive lineman. It's got to be 3 of those 4. It's got to be. And I would say if I'm going to remove one, like the pecking order is dumb. Like ranking the importance of the positions, it's razor thin. So it's not really even worth going 4 through 1. But if you're going to remove one, it's corner, pass rusher, interior defensive line, guard. Pass rusher, interior defensive line, guard. Get the quarterback, stop the run, protect Kyler Murray. Get the quarterback, stop the run, protect Kyler Murray. That's what Steve Keim should be doing, the Wolf of Wall Street thing with Matthew McConaughey, like a maniac. That's what he should be saying to himself from now until the end of the draft. And that brings me, Ben, very good question, Ben Whitley. What would the Cardinals have to do, in your mind, to earn an A grade in this draft? 2 things, 2 options, 2 Robert Frost, whatever, the road not traveled. That doesn't work. There are 2 things that could happen that I could pivot back my thoughts on the Hollywood Brown trade from last night. Option 1, package 55 and one of the 3rd round picks to move up and draft David Ojabo if possible. That would be it. Like that and Hollywood Brown sold. Because I think Hollywood Brown's a 2nd round talent. So at least right now, a 2nd and 3rd, a 2nd and 4th. So, and David Ojabo would be a 1st round pick if he wasn't injured. So if you get David Ojabo in the 2nd, Hollywood Brown in the 1st, samesies. So that would be home run number 1. If they can draft David Ojabo at 55 or have to move up to get him, that's a home run, number 1. Number 2, if they can draft a combination, of these 4 positions in these 3 picks that they have this afternoon, corner, interior defensive lineman, offensive lineman, pass rusher. If they draft one of each of those positions, obviously leaving out one of them, that's a win. That would be an A. And obviously this is all based on speculation and, and performance analysis translated from college to the NFL. So we don't know if any of these players are going to be good. Like we just don't know. There's no such thing as a sure thing. There isn't. Say it with me now. Get the quarterback, stop the run, protect Kyler Murray. That's it. I'm going to leave you with that. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to check out Locked On NFL, the YouTube channel today. I will be going on right after the Cardinals pick. You'd assume that they're going to pick unless they just continue to trade for players. Check it out all night long on the Locked On NFL channel. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. Truly, I cherish this time every day. It's the best part of my day. So thank you for being along the journey with me. I'll talk to you